Welcome back to the Sunday Talk Show. This is live here on the Arise News channel. With me, I still have Professor Bola Akinterinwa, Director General, Bola Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies, and Professor David Aworawo, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies at the University of Lagos. Well, professors, thank you for joining me on the program as usual today. Today we have our two guests. We had Dr. Abiye Sekibo Achin III, Director General of the Atiku Abubakar presidential campaign in Rivers State, who was attacked 2 days ago. And, he was protected by the bulletproof vehicles in which he was traveling. And he was pointedly accusing the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, as being the man behind the plot. And he also spoke generally about political violence and then the possibility of the election taking place as scheduled, now that the president has signed Executive Order number 14, and he has also said he has put in place a transition committee to oversee the election, which I argued as well is a good signal. Then, of course, we also had the Daily Additional Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who talked about the dilemma that the judiciary is facing, particularly as the Supreme Court, the Apex Court, has been starkly criticized by lawyers, by journalists, specifically Farouk Perogi, who has written 2 articles on the Supreme Court calling their lordships corrupt people, illiterate bandits, in response to also the Supreme Court coming out and saying lawyers should be careful and that ordinary people too should be careful abusing, the Supreme Court of Nigeria, because that will amount to provocative contempt. Contempt, that will undermine the integrity of the institution. And the Nigerian Bar Association has told lawyers, if you criticize the Supreme Court, the disciplinary committee will come after you. Let me start with you, Professor Aworawo.
Well, I would like to start with the second issue, the Supreme Court thing. I agree with, additional son that we must, the decision of the Supreme Court is final, we must understand that. And that, even though the judges, they are not fallible, but the decisions are final. He also, of course, referred to Al Gore, who said he disagreed with the judgment of the Supreme Court of the United States that ruled that, Bush was duly elected in 2000, but that he accepted the decision as final. He also spoke a lot about sociological school, legal positivism, and the rest of them. And it tends to, suggest that when the sociological school, because they consider the moral dimension, what law ought to be, that sometimes they don't understand the technicalities. Law is not rocket science, and rocket science is understood even by humans. So, yes, I agree with him that lawyers need to be careful in their criticism. Ordinary people also should be careful in their criticism because we don't have any other, option than to, accept what the courts say. We should also say that the courts too should be careful, and the Supreme Court especially too should be careful. You see, you don't assert respect; you earn respect. When you give judgment that is illogical, people will comment. The same Supreme Court that ruled that because Amechi won the primary, in Rivers, even though they didn't contest the main election, it should be governor. The same Supreme Court is now saying that those who won primary are not now those to be presented, but those who didn't buy form. It doesn't make sense. The judgment will be respected, but we cannot stop commenting, so that as additional say, moving forward, we can do better. The judgment, he quoted, you reminded him that the comment he made about the final Supreme Court was a statement by Oputa. The same Oputa also spoke, made pronouncements in the, I think, 86 or 87 or thereabouts, regarding the need for judges not to elevate technicalities above substance. In this case, Technicalities were, raised above substance. That is what people are talking. Recall that lower courts had ruled before that the due candidates for APC, in this case, in case of Rivers and Borno, that's the Senate president, was not them, but the others. People didn't complain that because that would make sense. People contested election and won. You now come to say because technicality, they didn't win. The person who didn't buy form is now the one who will be presented. So we will respect the judgment of the courts, but to avert chaos moving forward, we should also say that the judges need to be careful. They need to do what to make them earn respect. That is the point we are making. So Additional spoke well, but I disagree with him to say that, because the judges have ruled, we don't understand. We wait for the judgment. We have read the judgment. It's not rocket science. We can read the judgment and understand it. You should not speak as if law is something that is esoteric and cannot be understood by humans. No. So moving forward, they need to be careful so that everybody can be on the same page. That's the point. Where he spoke about also the judgment regarding I think the Supreme Court did well in that because the Supreme Court considered public interest. And I also agree with him that the substance of the matter has not been presented. 15th, they will have their day in court. The Supreme Court took, of course, determine its own jurisdiction on the matter. Whether CBN was joined or not is a different debate. The decision of the Supreme Court regarding the Naira notes and the deadline was taken on account of public interest, and that is in order. And that's how things ought to be, not some judgments that would look like moonlight. Regarding violence, yes, it is very concerning. Violence is just coming up all over the place. Just yesterday, the governor of Borno State was stoned. They had to hurriedly leave the scene where he was campaigning. We have had Atiku's team also attacked around that area, Rivers, and several other places. Of course, APC and Labour Party supporters in Lagos. The temperature needs to go down. This, election should not be seen as a do or die thing. The other time I spoke about politics of bitterness. Only one person will emerge president after the election. The other 16 will not be president. It's as simple as that. People should begin to make up their mind regarding that reality that should I not win, I will go home peacefully. And if I think I have a case, I should approach the court, not violence. Leaders too should be careful of the comments they make. There are some comments that are, credited to Fani Kayode regarding coup. Where will they be talking about coup? That with a military man, Atiku has a decent chance of winning the election. Why will they be talking about a coup? So all that kind of, raising the temperature, creating hysteria when there should be none. Even respected Ayo Adebanjo, he has spoken about, if his candidate is supporting does not win, there will be war. War where? If people are concerned about, North-South thing, which all of us think that there should be equity, we should go to the Constitution. We should go to Abuja to ensure that Constitution it becomes constitutional matter. Once you leave it to the discretion of political parties and individuals, we will take advantage of it. So whether Kwankwaso contest, they are qualified to contest. So the temperature needs to go down. And of course, the law enforcement agencies also need to also do their job. I'm happy the way they are doing. One Bale in Tiosa was threatening people the other day. The Lagos State police already calling him to order that they will invite him and to warn him. These are the kind of things we need to do so that temperature can go down and the election can come peacefully and also we can move on with our lives.
Well, Professor Akinterinwa, Farouk Meroge is calling Supreme Court justices illiterate bandits. He's accusing them of corruption. Another person, I think, is Chidi Odinkalo, has also written a piece suggesting that the Supreme Court has been taken over by hooligans. Where would it be if we destroy this apex court, which is the main argument of Mr. Dele Adesina? If we destroy that institution, what is the option that is available to us? Technicality, substance of the matter, and all that. But additionally, is saying ordinary people cannot determine what constitutes justice. What do you think, sir?
Well, I agree to a great extent with my brother, Professor Aworawo. The moment he mentioned the case of Ayo Adebanjo saying that if this is not done, there will be war. And he asked the question, where will the war come from? That's where I just take my difference, my distance from his position. You see, you need not, like he rightly pointed out, that law is not rocket science.
Everybody is a lawyer now.
No. A lawyer, by technical definition, is not simply that you have read law. It is defined by the factor of practicing. All right? A journalist, if you look at how he is defined in France, in their own law, is anybody who earns at least 2/3 of his income from the exercise of journalism.
From ameboism.
Now, the same way, who is a thief in Nigeria? What does the law say? You are not a thief until at least what you have taken from another person, what does not belong to you, you will not use it for your own private purposes. Deny the legitimate owner. That's what it says. Now, we read this as laymen, but we understand. You see, this issue, Erogi might have said whatever he said based on the principle of psychology of human differences. We do not look at things the same way. Probably he has evidence. Probably he does not have. But the issue is that he is entitled to his own opinion. All right? I've been going to court many occasions. And the way I look at how my justice handling the matter, I even felt that I should quickly go back to school to go and register, do JAMB or do whatever, to go and read law. Because, you see, the justice himself doesn't want the people of God to be quarreling. All right? He will be advising us. And at the end of the day, when we, the litigants, are not forthcoming, he will not say, okay, I will apply the law. So, judges can be a source of sweet inspiration. This was the case of Justice Lifu. All right? I just like his style. Now, Perogi is saying someone is an illiterate bandit. Please, Perogi cannot be taken as saying something that he is not conscious of what he's saying.
Or Chidion Dikalu talking about supreme hooliganism.
Yeah. So they are to come out and justify their position. You see, my own position, how can the court be saying they are warning people? How can the bar be warning people? You can only warn, you can advise to avoid destructive, criticism as it has been raised. But the right to criticize after judgment had been taken, after decision had been made known, there must be review. I'm a professional research student. Now that you have made known your position, now we must put it on the laboratory table to examine, to look at it, to learn lessons from that. Let me give you a relevant example. For instance, the Minister of Foreign Affairs last week said that the title of Ambassadors Institute, 155 people were given that particular status, which is very good. I don't have a problem with that. But when the same ministry now says that Ambassador Institute is the highest ranking order, I quarrel with that how can that one be? How can Ambassador Institute be superior? to an ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary, which is internationally defined. That prompted me to write on that particular one today in my column. The decision had been taken, but in the same way the court had ruled, please, we must sit down and be reflecting. People will not agree with me, and that's the beauty of it, that look, we must always be in a position to reflect, argue for and against, and then we'll be learning. The justices, if they admit that they are infallible, okay, then whatever they do, even if Al Gore says he disagrees with the judgment, but accepts the finality, fine. You don't accept rubbish as finality if it does not stand in logic. And I want to submit in this case that I subscribe with Professor Aworawo that look, the court itself must be more cautious. So you don't just take decision against logic. Somebody who did not participate in an election.
Any quick comment on the submissions of Dr. Abiye Sekibo, who survived an attempt on his life? Because we need to take a quick break, but quickly, if you may just address
You see, for Sekibo, we won't talk about, I think he was the one who said the rich also cries. No, that's additional. It's not the one. You see, the issue is that insecurity in Nigeria has the potential to continue for a long time to come. Why? Because the system does not allow for fairness, does not allow for justice. Governance is by manu militari. Governance in Nigeria is by force. So the government, Buhari's government, doesn't believe that they should negotiate when there are differences, when people are complaining. It's not every time you think you can use force. And now if Dr. Sekibo has the privilege of using, you know, these
bulletproof.
All these bulletproof, he has now told us that the bulletproof is not even a solution. Afterwards, one bullet penetrated. That government, they have their own special bullets that can still penetrate your car. And now his friends, they have given him 2 vehicles again. We people that do not even have a road-worthy vehicle, not to talk of you know, bulletproof cars. What do they want us to do in Nigeria? Are we not in the same country?
The point to be made is that nobody should be attacked for political reasons. There must be an open, level playing field in which everyone feels safe.
They attacked Labour Party people in Lagos
supporters
yesterday.
were attacked yesterday in Lagos. There was a clash between PDP and APC supporters in Katsina. We have a whole long list of, you know, political party supporters attacking themselves.
Ruben, that's the answer to Professor Aworawo. Some say, where will the war come from? It starts with the level of crisis, then to conflicts, then war follows. That's what is happening.
On that note, we'll take a short break now. When we return, the conversation will continue. Professor Akinterinwa is still here. Professor Aworawo is also still here. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Sunday Talk Show. This is live here on the Arise News channel. With me, I still have Professor Bola Akinterinwa, Director General, Bola Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies, and Professor David Aworawo, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies at the University of Lagos. Let's discuss the Naira. Members of the management team of the Central Bank of Nigeria will meet on Monday, we are told, to review the crisis that the Naira redesign program has generated, and then try to come up with solutions to the acute cash crunch that has nearly paralyzed the country. The meeting will also consider the advice given by the National Council of State that the Apex Bank should print more redesigned 1,000 Naira, 500 Naira, and 200 Naira notes, or recirculate the old ones withdrawn from circulation in order to ease the current cash crunch. According to reports, the meeting will involve the top echelon of the Apex Bank and that a fresh directive might be issued to deposit money banks on whether or not to keep accepting deposits of the old Naira notes. It has been reported that the Mint has succeeded in printing 500 billion worth of the new notes and might not have the capacity to print more at the moment, while the Central Bank of Nigeria had withdrawn about 2.1 trillion of the old notes from circulation. The CBN insists that it has no plans to print notes outside the country. Well, I don't know whether the two of you, Professor Aworawo and Professor Akinterinwa, whether you've been able to get the new notes and what you think should be done. As they meet tomorrow to take a second look, the Council of State has met, but here we are.
You see, the decision of the Council of State, the advice they give, is not good enough. I accept that, look, we can print new notes, all right, but not as a choice. There's no need allowing or releasing the old notes. When you release the old notes, then you are frustrating all the efforts you had made. People have suffered. Now, you have you had over 2 trillion old notes. You want to be taking them back? No. They should just print more, try to distribute as quickly as possible while retrieving whatever is outside. My major concern there is that, look, what you printed before, ordered by some people, some privileged Nigerians, they do have that. What is the sanction for them? Now what's happening? They are still going to keep the money. Is it also for vote buying, etc.? Now the purpose of redesigning should not be defeated. That's just the point we want to make. Please, this particular Nigeria in which we find ourselves, let us try for once to be sincere with ourselves. Some people cannot be trying to make the country good while some people are working against that, and then they work freely. They work freely. No, it's unacceptable.
Professor?
Yeah, well, I would like to look at the matter from a broader perspective. The question to be asked, how does CBN articulate its policy and then implement? But this is a classic example of very poor policy articulation and mediocre policy implementation. How much, what they said they printed 500 billion. Did they factor in how this will be distributed? Did they factor in the social environment in Nigeria and how this will not result into the chaos that we have now? And I'm speaking about this because in 2016, you recall, the CBN introduced a policy that you could not deposit your foreign currency in your domiciliary account. And we're wondering, how did they arrive at such a decision? Because a simple banking logic indicates that people will bring in their money, those who want to take will take. That's how banks survive. And it was when that policy was brought that the first free fall of Naira, when it went to 500, before it came down to 360, took place. We had to write the minister, then wrote before the government now, rescinded the decision. At that time, the Naira had crashed. What is the process of policy articulation and implementation at the CBN? Because the cost of this redesign is monumental. Banks shutting down. We'll be interested in seeing what the economic performance for the first quarter of this year will be. But the other side to it, Council of State, yes, I agree with Professor Akinterinwa that the old note should not be pushed back. The new note should be printed, and then if the CBN denying that the print and minting has capacity, if they don't, wherever they can get this thing printed quickly so that the economy does not suffer more than it has already suffered, can be taken care of. But they should, deal with it by getting more new notes and distributing quickly, and not bringing the old note into circulation. Otherwise, all that have been invested into this Naira redesign will have been a waste.
Okay, but we'll see. The Supreme Court will reconvene on February 15, and all the matters will be heard. by the court with regard to this Naira redesign. But what the average Nigerian wants, I agree with you, is that they want to have the notes in their hands so that life can be normal. Cashless policy should not be something that will cause pain. We take our final subject. The death toll from the earthquakes in Turkey and northwestern Syria has crossed 29,000 as rescue efforts continue. In Syria, where the hostilities that have fractured the country during 12 years of civil war are now hindering relief work, the disaster hit hardest in the rebel-held northwest, leaving many homeless for a second time after they were displaced by a decade-old civil war, though the region has received little aid compared to government-held areas. It has killed 24,617 inside Turkey and more than 3,500 in Syria, where tolls have not been updated since Friday. Turkey said about 80,000 people were in hospital, with more than 1 million in temporary shelters. The quake ranks as the world's 7th deadliest natural disaster this century, the toll approaching the 31,000 mark from a quake in neighboring Iran in 2003. The Pope has asked the faithful to pray for victims of one of the worst earthquakes to hit Turkey and Syria. Well, Professor Aworawo, this disaster in Turkey and Syria. We've seen footages of a father holding the hand of his daughter who died. We have seen footages of a child being born within this gap between life and death, and the mother died, the child survived. She arrived on earth without parents. Real tragedy. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a tragedy. Horrendous, horrendous tragedy. What can one say? The positive aspect of it is the global solidarity. I'm impressed by how much the rest of the world has come to assist Turkey in this. Even countries that do not have very close relations with Turkey, how much they have committed resources, committed manpower and all that to assist, to save as many lives as possible in this very horrendous earthquake. We hope that solidarity will continue. And of course, Syria, because Syria is receiving less attention than Turkey, because there are countries that have had, because of the crisis in Syria. I would plead with the international community to treat Syria, this is an emergency, and whatever they do is to help the ordinary person, not Al-Assad, so that, Syria too could, receive as much as Turkey has. But we commend the global community for solidarity to assist these two countries in this disaster.
Well, Prof, very briefly, because we need to go.
Basically, what is it that we can learn as lesson from this? Literature has shown that it's very difficult to predict, when there will be seismic eruption. Now, in Nigeria, we've been told that by 2015, Lagos may be sinking. This is not volcanic eruption, but can we learn?
Well, thank you very much, Professor Aworawo. Thank you very much, Professor Akinterinwa. You've been watching This Day Live, the Sunday talk show, here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati from our entire team here in Lagos. It's bye for now, and thank you very much for watching.